Hello, everyone. I'm Moose Jester, Chief Data Officer here at Occupy Fantasy. Check us out at occupyfantasy.com. I'm here for a very special YouTube only breakdown for the NBA DFS Christmas slate on DraftKings, FanDuel, and Yahoo. I'm joined by our two NBA writers to give you the best DFS picks and lineup advice for the big holiday slate. If you're not subscribed already, please do so. Hit the like, subscribe, and bell notification so you'll be notified of when we upload new videos. You can check us out at occupyfantasy.com, on Twitter at occupyfantasy, Instagram at occupyfantasy as well. As we get right into it, let me go ahead and introduce the person to the bottom left of your screen, Garrett at gstroms99 on Twitter. What's up, Garrett? How you doing today?
I'm doing well, Moose. How about yourself?
I'm good. I'm good. And then at the right, we have Boyle, T Boyle, 24 underscore DFS on Twitter. What's up, man?
Nothing much. How you doing?
I'm good. I'm good. So, Boyle, real quick, the big holiday slate, the Santa Slam, big prizes. I know you have some tickets to it, right?
Yes, 38 actually to be exact.
Wow, 38 tickets. And Garrett, how about you?
29
Nice. So,
on
yeah,
the FanDuel Santa Slam.
nice. And so, yeah, a bunch of our members have tickets. I know there were satellites out for quite a while for that. So, really quick, very high level. I'll go each ask you one by one. Start with you, Garrett. What are some things you need to do to try and take this down if you have these satellite tickets?
All right, so one thing you really need to do is for a lot of your lineups, you need to try and differentiate. You need to have, a set player pool. Um, for example, I have 29 different lineups, so I'm not going to create like an 80 player pool. That would just be ridiculous.
Yeah,
You want to narrow it down to say 30 or 40 players max.
yeah,
And stick with those players. Stick with the players you feel have the highest potential. You need to find some, lower owned value plays that you feel have the opportunity to have a high ceiling. Some players that other people may not be looking towards.
yeah. Great point. Anything to add to that, Boyle?
Yeah. So last night I was basically looking up some of the past winners just
Mm-hmm.
to see if I could find any like correlations or anything. A lot of the people who finished in like the top 20 on both sites kind of did like a mini game stack.
Okay.
So it was kind of like they targeted what they thought was the highest scoring game. So I think last year was I don't know if it was the highest scoring, but it was definitely with the most value. It was the Lakers Warriors one. Um,
Okay.
a lot of like those low price Lakers guys ended up going off, and um, they had like Kuzma and like two or three Lakers, and then that shot them all the way up to the top.
Okay, makes sense. Yeah. So take a look at some of the high scoring games. Try and do some mini stacks with them, and looking at the betting odds, there are some decently high over unders. Looking at some of the consensus lines here, it looks like the highest game on the market is that Houston Golden State game at
Mhm.
229. Um, so then, Boyle. With that being said, is there anybody from that game that you're targeting?
Yeah. So Westbrook's really cheap, at least on DraftKings he is, and I'm pretty sure he is on FanDuel too, right, Garrett?
I believe he's 9-4,
Yeah, exactly.
nine
Yeah.
nine six, nine
That's
six.
still I would still target
Yeah.
him. He's been really hot as of lately. Um, he scored over 50 in three of his last four, and the one outlier he scored 48.
Okay. Wow.
So he's been really hot as of lately.
Nice. Yeah. So let's take a look. So we kind of have that high level breakdown of it. Let's go game by game and
Okay.
talk about some plays. We'll each get your opinion on the game. If there's anybody you should play, anybody you should avoid, and we got about another 5 or 6 minutes. We like to keep the videos under that 10-minute mark. So first game on the schedule at noon, Boston at Toronto. Garrett, is there anybody that you're targeting or avoiding from that game?
Yeah. So I'm primarily looking at FanDuel.
Okay.
And Rondé Hollis Jefferson stands out as a big value to me. He's only 4-1 on FanDuel. Um, I mean, he's 5-3 on DraftKings, for example.
Hmm.
So that's a big price discount for us on Rondé Hollis. So he's probably the best value possibly in the entire slate.
Wow. Okay.
Um, yeah, so that's definitely one I'm looking towards. Someone I'm staying away from more is Kyle Lowry. I feel like his price has gotten up there a little bit with the injuries to Siakam, Gasol, and Powell, and uh, what's it called? The Boston Celtics defense is not one to really mess around with.
Mhm.
So I feel like I'm going to stay a little bit away from him.
Yeah, and it makes sense because that game has the lowest over/under at 212.5.
Yeah.
So it makes sense. Almost 10 points from the nearest person. Boyle, switch it over to you. If you don't have anything else to add to that game, what about the Bucks 76ers game? I know you're a huge Philly fan, so I assume you'll have some bias here.
Yeah, I mean, last year when Embiid ended up scoring off with Giannis, they both ended up going off.
Hmm.
So that could be one little game stack if it continues this year.
Yeah.
Embiid's still getting the usage he was getting last year, maybe a little bit less, but not like a big drop from what he was getting last year with the addition of Harris and Horford.
Hmm.
And I think Giannis end up dropping like a 50-point, I think it was like 50-10 and like I
Good
want to say like
God.
8 or something against us last year.
Yeah, it was crazy.
Like 80 something DraftKings points. But like he feasts off us. And like we went out and got like Al Horford to try to cover him.
Hmm.
But I mean, this is Giannis Antetokounmpo. Like no
Yeah.
one's going to be able to slow him down.
Yeah. So then is Giannis one of your top plays? You think for this slate?
Yeah, I mean, for the most part, if I'm going high risk, I think
Mhm.
I'm going to try to. If I'm stacking this game, it's probably going to be like Embiid, Giannis, and like one other player, like Middleton or like Toby
Okay.
or someone who can shoot.
Okay.
And just hope that the shooters can get hot, and then
Yep.
hopefully that it repeats from last year with Embiid and Giannis just possession after possession, just taking it to each other.
Makes sense. Makes sense to me. Anybody you're avoiding from that game?
Avoiding,
Yeah.
besides Bledsoe because he's out. Uh, Not really. I
Okay.
mean, with Thibault out, our bench is. Or no, I can't say our bench. Philly's bench is kind of a mess. I know that James Ennis came off the bench last game and played a lot. He's
Mhm.
min-priced on DK, and
Okay.
Furkan Korkmaz is another player who played a lot last game, but his price is like 3.6 or something.
Okay.
So I mean, I think that Philly's probably going to try to narrow their bench down in this game. So
Okay.
maybe have less exposure to bench players, even though they could see a little bit more minutes than normal.
Okay, that makes sense to me. And yeah, all of the Occupy model will be up tomorrow for all these games, bright and early, around 8 a.m. So you can check that out at occupyfantasy.com. Really quick, if you don't know what the Occupy model is, we rank all players on the slate using over 100 different metrics, boil it down into one easy-to-use number called the OF index. We also have value columns as well, very sortable, a bunch of filters. Go check that out, occupyfantasy.com. All right, now Garrett, switch it back over to you. That Houston Golden State game, and we know it's the highest total of the game. However, the Rockets are a 10-point favorite, which is the largest on the slate, tied with the Denver Nuggets. Does that kind of scare you at all with that high spread?
It's definitely something I need to think about when building my lineups.
Mhm.
Some of my lineups will potentially have the narrative of Golden State staying in the game, being able to keep up with Houston for a good amount of time, and in that case, I would look towards guys like Draymond Green, D'Angelo Russell, because if they do that, they will be the guys to keep them close.
Okay.
And then in the potential of a blowout, I would look more towards the cheaper end, like Damian Lee
Okay.
or Willie Cauley-Stein, PJ Tucker
Because
in those
those
areas.
players will still see the minutes in a blowout.
Yeah.
Correct. Yeah.
And then can I add on something for that game real
Yeah.
quick?
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Absolutely.
Glenn Robinson sat out last night.
Mhm.
So just be on the lookout for him because if he sits, then it's going to be Alex Burks who gets to start.
Okay.
And he played really well last night in that role.
Yeah.
So he would be a pretty good option if Lee's or not Lee if Robinson's actually out.
Okay. Yeah, definitely. So keep an eye on that. I know Garrett and Boyle, you guys post so many injury updates, who sits, who starts, all that other kind of stuff. So definitely go ahead and follow them. GStroms99, TBoyle24_DFS. Follow both of them on Twitter. Turn your notifications on for them because it is definitely worth it. All right, next game for you, Boyle. Battle of the LAs, the Clippers and the Lakers. Pretty high total, pretty even point spread. The Clippers -1.5. What's your take on this game?
So last night I was watching a Lakers video with Frank Vogel in it, and he was saying that LeBron and AD are both listed as questionable, even though LeBron said he's probably going to play.
Okay.
The coach said they're both listed as questionable as of right now. They're both like still have injuries. It's not like they just healed overnight.
Yeah.
So they're going to practice today and then see how they feel.
Okay.
and they're going to have the injury report out hopefully by today, he said.
Mm-hmm.
So in the case that they don't play, if Davis plays and James doesn't, you're going to want Rondo, Davis, and Kuzma. And then if it's the opposite, if Davis sits out, you're going to want LeBron, you're going to want McGee, and probably Dwight Howard.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, real quick, so Garrett, you're the one that's playing on FanDuel with no late swap. How do you tackle this with these questionables? If they're truly questionable by noon tomorrow, do you kind of just? I mean, this is the type of thing that's going to make you win those big tournaments. You have to take a stand somewhere. Do you?
You do.
Do you say, yeah, I'm going with LeBron. I'm going with what he says, or I'm fading LeBron and going with what the coach says, and hope he misses?
As of right now, if it ends up being where they're still questionable by noon tomorrow,
Mm-hmm.
I am going to go with the idea that LeBron and AD will play.
Okay.
And there's no real way that you can tell. My biggest reason for that is LeBron said the other day that he expects to play Christmas Day.
Yeah.
Obviously that was before the questionable tag. I'm gotta trust the guy who says I'm not gonna sit for no reason. I'll only sit if I'm really, really hurt.
Makes sense.
So LeBron said that earlier this season.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of the gut feeling I'd have.
Okay.
That might change by tomorrow, of course.
Yeah.
But so far that's where I'm at. That's where I'm, looking towards.
Yep. Okay. And we're almost running out of time here, so let's knock this last game out. The late game, Pelicans and Nuggets. Anybody you're looking for this game, Boyle?
I like Lonzo Ball a lot. He got
Okay.
to start last game. He had foul trouble in the first half. Came in the second half. Ended up playing a decent amount of time. Got all the way up to 25. Even though he only played limited minutes because of these fouls. So I definitely like him.
Okay. Anything to add on that, Garrett?
Yeah, I don't know what his price is on DraftKings, but on FanDuel, Paul Millsap is extremely cheap.
I was just gonna say that. Yeah, he's very cheap on
he's
DK too.
extremely cheap, and New Orleans defense is not very strong at all. If they're able to stay in it whatsoever,
Mhm.
I would really, if you're planning on that, I'd really attack this Denver team, for the late hammer.
Mhm.
They have a lot of cheap guys who can score. Gary Harris, Paul Millsap. Jokic should be able to destroy their front court. So I'm really looking at Jokic as a big man that
Okay.
I'm going to play in some of my lineups.
Nice.
So that's definitely something I'm looking at.
Awesome. Yeah, so I think this is a really good discussion. Again, guys, if you like what we do, definitely go ahead and hit like, subscribe, and bell notification. I'm going to ask you guys a couple questions, and we'll get up out of here. Start with you, Garrett. Who's going to be the slate breaker and your top play?
The slate breaker. All right. So my top play overall, I believe you mean by top play my highest owned player?
Who you think has the best value? It could be anybody, whoever you want to classify it as.
All right. So I believe Paul Millsap will be like my highest owned player. I think he has the best value on the slate.
Okay.
He has extremely high upside, weak defense.
Mm-hmm.
So I definitely like Paul Millsap. Slate breaker, that's a little bit more difficult. Honestly, with not much value.
Well, you could just you could just say Paul Millsap because you're going to take it down, right?
Yeah, of course, it's Paul Millsap.
Perfect.
But I definitely like Russell Westbrook as well as a slate breaker. I think he's going to be he has the potential to be a high scoring player on the slate.
Makes sense. And I'll ask the same thing to you, Boyle.
I'm piggybacking off of what Garrett just said with Westbrook. Oh, I mean, Westbrook's my highest owned player.
Okay. All right.
Slate breaker is definitely going to be the Lakers news.
Okay.
Yeah, that's true.
Because, I mean, again, if either one of those players are out, the ownership on those Lakers guys are going to be massively bumped up.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, like, you really can't avoid playing them because at least one of those low-priced guys are going to go off. At least one word. It's probably end up going to be like the two centers go off if Davis is out, where it's just you're going to have to play him.
That's true.
And they're probably going to break the slate, but you got to hop on board with the chalk.
Exactly. Yeah, that's true. So, yeah, I was glad that we were able to get this done. I hope you guys like what we did. Check us out at OccupyFantasy.com. You can follow me on Twitter at CFB_Moose. You can follow Occupy at OccupyFantasy. Garrett at GStroms99. Boyle at TBoyle24_DFS. Any last words before we end this video?
Let's have a holly jolly Christmas.
Yeah,
let's get a nice gift.
Let's have a Merry Christmas, everybody, and let's take something down.
Perfect. Awesome. Well, have a good night, guys, and be profitable.